Welcome back to the Morning Blend. Clinical trials are free programs that can give patients access to new treatments and drugs. They also help medical people evaluate how well those new things are working.
But how do you know if a clinical trial is a good thing for you to try and what makes you a good candidate? Dr. Alvin Wells is with the Rheumatology and Immunotherapy Center, and Rachel is the study coordinator there. Welcome back, you guys.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Nice to have you.
Yeah, we kind of gave a little synopsis, I guess, of a clinical trial, but how would you guys describe a clinical study, and why do you think they're important?
Sure. The first thing I tell people, all drugs that are approved by the FDA go through this whole process. It's all kind of clinical trials. There are 4 different phases of them, phase 1, 2, 3, and 4. And most of us, like us in practice, by the time they know the dose, they know the drug's safe, they know it works, what we really want to tease out, okay, how well does it work, and are there any specific side effects? Let's say if 1,000 people take a drug, and then all of a sudden people get headache, that gets listed as a side effect of the medication. So the clinical trials that we're involved in is kind of a standard process is done for all drugs that are approved by the FDA.
Right now, the clinical trial that you have going on is for arthritis, right?
Yes. Rachel, you want to tell them about some of the trials that we have?
That's correct. We have several options as far as studies go for rheumatoid arthritis, patients with arthritis of the hand, as well as psoriatic arthritis study starting soon.
Okay.
Why would you want someone to participate in the study?
Well, I think it's a great option for patients as far as healthcare goes. Everything's covered in the trial. All the medications that are approved need to be studied so that there's more options on the market.
So there's no cost to the person who takes advantage of a clinical trial?
Exactly right. So one, the time with the physician, which is me, gets covered. There are laboratory studies and all the study medications, all those things are covered. And actually, depending on the trial, sometimes patients get reimbursed a small fee, and it costs any kind of cost that they have to do for meals and for travel. Some of those things are kind of reimbursed. So as we decide whether the trial is right for someone to say, hey, if they fail other therapies, for example, at our clinic, we have drugs that are not available anywhere else in the state. So we have people coming all the way from Green Bay and all the way down from Kenosha to see us here to get access to some of the state-of-the-art therapy that we have here in Wisconsin.
You kind of touched on this a little bit, but for someone who's saying, okay, I have arthritis in my hand and I would like to be able to do this because nothing's worked for me, or I don't have the money to get other therapies or pay for medication, is it safe?
Yes, and that's the thing. So everybody wants to know, am I going to be experimented on? Of course.
Yeah.
By the time they reach this point, we know the drugs are safe, and that's the FDA that mandates that first. They got to say they're safe. And then does it work? What they're looking for now, can we go to thousands of patients and see how well does it work and how does it compare to other types of therapies? For example, one study that Rachel's doing now is with the osteoarthritis of the hands. You can tell them about that and how we do it for the osteoarthritis of the hands.
Yes, so we have patients this is a good option for somebody who has achy, stiff hands, swollen hands. They don't necessarily need a prior diagnosis for that, so they just call our clinic. We can screen them just by asking them a few questions to find out if they'd be a candidate for it. No, we have patients that are getting extraordinary relief out of this medication.
And do you find that the best candidates for trials like this are people who've maybe tried other things and it hasn't worked for them?
It really just depends on the certain clinical trial. Not in this one. In some of our rheumatoid arthritis, we have like 5 different studies that different patients can, with different backgrounds of whether they're treated or never been treated, there's some different options.
Does it tend to cover all ages?
Yes, and most of the ones we're doing in adults, even though we see pediatric patients in the clinic, most of ours, we're looking for patients 18 years old and older. And again, how we decide whether they've been on other therapies, we tell people, always call, and that's what we offer here now, so we can do a free evaluation to see if a trial will be appropriate for them, what kind of screening process, and that's what Rachel's job and some of the other coordinators in the clinic, that's what the role that they play.
And coming up, you're going to be doing a clinical trial for obesity.
Yes, we're excited because down the road we got several different trials. So one for a new trial for psoriatic arthritis. So this is people with skin disease and arthritis, but also for weight loss. We know now that is a big disease. It's been recognized as a medical condition. We get newer drugs that have been approved, and so the same type of process, seeing how well this drug works when we get into the larger community. So we're excited about that.
If somebody comes to you and they go through the assessment and they're not a fit for this study, are there other options for treatment that you can refer them to or talk to them about?
Yes, and that's what it's so nice of being one of the investigators. I know people throughout the country. So we have some people that go to Illinois, they go to Mayo, so we can actually see what's appropriate for that patient, or if once they get into the standard program being treated in our Rheumatology and Immunotherapy Center.
it seems like one of the advantages for patients is that they're so closely monitored. You talked about lab
Absolutely.
tests and, checking with them about any possible side effects. So that's something that they can, know and feel reassured about going into it.
Yeah, we're available 24 hours a day to our patients, so anytime, and we do lab tests every visit, so very closely monitored.
How long do the trials usually go?
So they vary. That's something we do for several years. There are others that are shorter for 6 months or for a year, but some that will go for several years. We have one trial where patients have been on the drugs for 3 years.
Wow.
Oh, I didn't realize some clinical trials
Yeah.
lasted that
it's kind of
long.
exciting.
Yeah, definitely for people. So right now, the clinical trial that you have going on are focused around arthritis. Coming up, there will be clinical trials for obesity specifically. You can find out if you're a good candidate for some of these clinical trials by calling the Rheumatology and Immunotherapy Center. The phone number is 414-435-0025. You can also visit the website that you see there. It's rheumatologyitc.com, and you can speak to Rachel too when you call to find out if you're a good candidate for a clinical trial. Thanks
Thanks,
both
you
of
guys.
you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.